screen. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you, Mr. Nicholas Prempeh. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, it is. Well done. One of the few people who's been able to say that.
That's a good start then. I'm grateful to get yourself on the speaking with me.
Yes.
Boxing is something I'm really passionate about. I say it all the time. I train myself. I'm in the gym. I'm not a boxer, but I understand the sport. So it's an honor to be able to speak to people like yourselves that are actively involved in it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm humbled.
Really, I really appreciate it.
I'm humbled. I had the pleasure of speaking to your business partner, Xavier, the other day.
Yeah.
Who told me a little bit about boxing IQ. IQ boxing, sorry. People do that to me. They say, oh, October Red. No, it's October like the film. No, it's October Red. So IQ boxing.
That's all right.
And you guys being in partnership.
Yeah.
I'm interested in all that are involved in boxing, how they got involved in boxing, and just a little bit about their journey. So just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Mr. Prempeh.
All right. So I'm Nicholas Prempeh, half of IQ Boxing. I guess I've been involved in boxing now for somewhat well over 10 years now.
Wow.
Well over 10 years. During the day, I am a teacher by trade, and then in the evenings or my weekends, I pick up my passion, which is boxing, and coach amateurs and professional boxers to be able to achieve their dreams.
Yeah.
Essentially, IQ's been around for something like I think 8-9 years now, possibly 10. Myself and Xavier know each other from work. We were both, well, I'm still a teacher. He was a teacher also, so that's his background in which how we met. And we were both boxing fanatics. He's a bigger boxing fanatic than I am. And then we just had conversations many years ago, many times about wanting to start our own. At that point, it was just a club. We just wanted to start a club so that we could help young people in the local community, and stop getting themselves in antisocial behavior or getting themselves in trouble. And then we thought, what better way to do it than boxing? We worked in a school which worked with young people who found it difficult to be in, your conventional mainstream schooling.
Yeah.
And we found that boxing worked really well with them. So we both started off at another club where we were just volunteering and doing some work and stuff, and then we sort of just wanted to do our own thing. We were just really wanting to do our own thing, and birth of IQ came along, and we were fortunate that when we were opened, we had some really loyal boxers who followed us to the club, and we've gone on from strength to strength from there. So yeah, it's been nice. When I originally first got involved in boxing, I was more interested in the strength conditioning element of it, and I really wanted to focus on that. But I guess the love for boxing took over, and the more I was in the gym, the more I wanted to be involved with fighters and in the corners and helping to develop them and grow them to become better boxers. So yes, I haven't looked back since, and it's something I thoroughly enjoy, and so happy that we did. And we've had really wonderful nights in both amateur and professional boxing, and look forward to bigger and better nights in the future.
That is really, I did not know that you come from a teaching background. So we're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to go back to the bones of it. Tell me about your teaching background and how you got involved in teaching in the first place.
So I've been a teacher pretty much since I left university. I guess it stemmed from originally when I was in college. I got involved in an organization and an initiative where you became a coach. You could become a coach, a sports coach. At that time, it was predominantly football I was
Yeah.
focusing on.
Yeah.
So I got involved doing that at 16 and really enjoyed, working with young people and people of my age and a little bit older, just coaching them and helping them. And I guess I just found, a real sense of appreciation in helping other young people achieve and develop in their sport. I wouldn't say I was one of those people at that age who wanted to create champions or wanted the next best thing. It was more about just having fun and engaging people in the sport. And I loved it, enjoyed having a laugh. And I it was something that early on I realized that money can't buy. You can't buy that sense of gratitude of feeling that you wanted to do. Because prior to that, I really wanted to be a banker. I wanted to be an investment banker. I wanted to, work in the city. And I was at college, studying business studies
Mm-hmm.
alongside, politics and English literature. So it shows the route I wanted to go down.
Mm-hmm.
But quickly after doing that, I realized I wanted to do nothing more than sort of teach and help other young people.
Mm.
Which took me on my journey, different places. I went and lived in America for a year, just coaching out there, just 'cause that's how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I was, had my heart set on, I really want to get involved in coaching and teaching, because for me, it felt hand in hand.
Yeah.
It was the same skills that you needed in terms of, listening and helping other young people and helping them develop. And I really believe that, with sport and in education, with the right blend, you can make wholehearted individuals. We've seen the power of sport. Once you teach somebody something, they've got it for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just wanted to transcend that and take that into my day-to-day world, which then led me into teaching. I've been a teacher ever since. I still teach now.
Yeah.
So that's my day job. I work in secondary education, so I got the 11 to 16s to which I'm trying to help and mold into wonderful young people, and that they can
Yeah.
come and contribute back to society. And I think it's important, as coaches, is that we've got that element of where we can teach and nurture. Sometimes it's not about trying to produce the best. It's just about giving people an experience that they know they're going to enjoy, and help them find the path and the way.
Absolutely. So you've got that kind of like groundwork of giving back, that sense of helping
Yeah,
others, helping them to be the best that they can be,
yeah,
to push them on that right path. That's quite deep rooted. And you said that you've been involved in that since the age of 16.
yeah.
What is it that happened to you that developed you into that type of person from such a young age?
Um, I think it was the people who was around. I had lots of people when I was growing up who invested their time in me. You know, I played sports on my way up, significantly football, and I had a lot of people who put their time in me to help me become better, or just sat me aside and had a conversation with me saying, "Do you know what? You can do this. If you really want to do it, you can do it. And even if you don't do it, the avenues it will give you and and the skills that you learn can make you an even better person." And I'm grateful for those people, because without those words or without that tutelage, I may not be the individual who I am now. And you know they were people in my local community, people who I still see today.
Yeah.
People who are a little bit older, family friends who just took that time, 5 or 10 minutes, just have a conversation with me, or
Mm.
extra half an hour with me outside kicking a ball, showing me how to do little bits and pieces. And I guess I've always been really appreciative of people giving their time to me. And I thought, I guess growing up, that was the thing I felt, I need to do back, is give my time to other people to potentially help them
Yeah.
achieve they achieve. And for me, I've been quite fortunate all through my life. I've met people who've invested their time in me and helped me and develop to the next stage. So I guess it's only fair that
Mhm.
I reciprocate that and do that same for people after me.
That's quite humbling to hear. There's no ego there. It's all about pushing it
Nah.
for somebody else. Um, In
Yeah.
boxing, there's all sorts of personalities, and I'm sure we can discuss that moving
Yeah.
later on into our conversation. So having those good grassroots, those good foundations, those positive words of advice that have stuck with you from that young age,
Yeah.
you then go on to university, and then I presume into
Yeah.
employment, which you said you're a
Yeah.
teacher, you
Yeah.
teach 11 to 16-year-olds, which is challenging
Yeah.
within itself.
Yeah.
Tell me about the common ground that you find with these students, so you're able to have a better relationship with them than,
Um,
you know, the rigid teacher that maybe I went to
yeah.
school with, that would just bark at you and
Yeah.
not really talk to you or talk with you.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's, drawing off your past experiences. I know when I was at school, I didn't respond to any teacher who barked at me. It was really rigid. And
Yeah,
I guess it's one of those things I've always said, whether it be in the classroom or in the boxing gym,
yeah,
is to be as flexible as possible, because people learn in different ways. And, in order to get the best out of someone, you've got to be able to understand them. And I guess for me, I draw back on the things that motivated me, and
yeah.
the way in which people were to me, and I try and do the same with, my boxers and my students.
Mm,
It's all about understanding them, what makes them tick, what makes them not tick, and so on and so forth. I'm human. There'll be times where I get it wrong. There've been times where, you know, a boxer's asked me a question and I've responded in a way, and I've gone back and thought about it and thought, what, that weren't the right way. But
mm,
I think the biggest thing is to be able to acknowledge that you don't know it all, and you're able to learn off them also. Because I often find that they are the best teachers themselves. They know they
absolutely.
they know they know a lot more modern and current stuff than I do. So it's, and they draw to me for different experiences and different learning experiences. So when it's my time to do that, I listen, and then vice versa. So it's just having that respect for one
Yeah,
another. And for me, I think it's important, especially, if I use boxing in the school, when I'm a teacher, my students want to trust me to know that I can give them the best education possibly, or give them the
yeah,
best advice. And when I'm with my boxers, they want to know that I can guide them and give them, the best possible strategies and advice, that, when they go into a fight, that they'll come out the other side, not just with the victory, but most importantly, feeling healthy and safe. So yeah, it's just about respect, I guess.
so I guess every day, I know it sounds like a cliche now, but every day is a school day, isn't it?
Every day is a
You,
school day.
you
Every
never
minute is a
stop
school.
learning. So tell me about your journey into boxing.
Um, so it pretty much started when, um, some of it started before I met Zav. Some of it was, just I always used to go down to boxing gyms to keep fit and stuff. When I
Yeah,
wasn't playing football and stuff, it was just my nice little way of keeping fit, and
yeah,
it was a good way for me to release frustrations when I weren't playing football. But I guess my boxing journey really started when I met Zav, and we used to do a lot more in the school. So we'd do a lot more like conditioning and training, and a lot more boxing related stuff. Um, I've always been an avid boxing fan. I mean, I've loved boxing since I was young, and I think partly comes from my dad, because my dad used to stay up and watch the old school fights.
hmm
Stay up till 4 in the morning to watch Mike Tyson, and he knocked someone out in 10 seconds. And I
yeah.
always remember my dad, going mad saying, "If we stay up the whole night for 4 seconds, I'm not doing this again." Um,
But you did
but
again.
he did it always.
Did
He
it again.
always did
My
it
mum
again.
was the same.
But I guess that stemmed from that, was my appreciation for boxing, and my
Yeah,
my interest in it. So I was always a big fan of it, and I always sort of looked at fighters and studied them in terms of, I'm really into psychology, in terms of the way in which people's minds are before and after they do events. So
interesting.
whilst I was at uni, doing my degree and stuff, I did sports science and business studies. So a lot of my time at university was looking at fighters and their mentality, and what makes an elite boxer, and an elite athlete. Um, and that sort of always had my interest, and I've always wanted to work with athletes in terms of their mindset. But I guess the love for coaching boxing came, when I met Zav, and we used to sit down and talk, and we'll watch classic fights, and he would ask me different things, and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's this and it's that. And then, when we was always talking about, the club and stuff, he always used to say, you should think about becoming a coach, because you've got the desire, and you've got the knowledge there, so don't shy away from it, sort of thing. But I guess you never really know when you're there yourself, in terms of being in it. And like I always said, I've always trained and done a bit of sparring and stuff, but it's different when you're in the gym and you're trying to nurture people and help them to grow. It's a whole different aspect, and there's a whole different passion to it. And I guess for me, when I got involved with it, and me and Zav started this journey, Zav was always like, oh, do you want to fight or whatever? But I really had my mind set on being a coach, because I knew I was good at being a coach in terms of motivating people and helping to teach people. But what I wanted to do was, to help build someone from scratch. It's different in other sports. When you coach different sports, you're involved in other sports, it's different. Coming from a football background, if you have a bad day on the football pitch, there's 10 other people who can help you out. But in boxing, if you have a bad day, it's just you yourself, and there is no escapism. And it was really interesting to see a fighter's mindset from that, like full on and right in front of me.
Yeah.
And it just sort of, just ignited a flame in me to sort of, say, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to build fighters. I want to coach them. I want to do whatever. And I'd been in and enough around boxing enough to know what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. So it just felt like, fish to water to me. Just just got in there and just loved every minute. Yeah.
So your relationship, you said that you formed with Xavier, was from, you were both teaching at the
we're
same
both
school.
Yeah, that's how we met each other. We're business partners, but we're like brothers.
I like that.
We trust each other. Like nothing, implicitly.
Yeah.
If I say something, he'll take it on board, and vice versa.
Yeah.
We respect each other.
Yeah.
100%. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been quite fortunate to grow the club the way in which we have, because we've had a vision.
Yeah.
And we've stayed true to that vision, and we've worked towards what we wanted to do. And Zab's gone a particular route in terms of what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it a particular way. And there are, we've got other plans and other dreams in the pipeline that we want to achieve. But I think, for anything to work, there has to be trust, like I mentioned before, between a boxer and his trainers, the same way between business partners. I trust him implicitly, if he says, look, let's think about this, and vice versa. So we've known each other, for God knows, maybe 20 odd years now, if not just a little bit less than that. So, he's, like I say, he's like a brother to me. So, we respect each other, and it comes out, anybody who sees us, the banter that we have, we'll often call each other out for sparring and stuff in the gym. I'll walk in and he'll be like, why are you late or something? I'm like, who are you talking to? Do you know what? Just put your gum shield in, put your gloves on, let's go. But, I guess for our fighters and stuff, it's nice to see the brotherhood and, the trust amongst one another, because there isn't, animosity or nothing. I know sometimes in boxing, like you said, there's egos, coaches and stuff can't see eye to eye, and then you can feel like a fictitious sort of atmosphere in the air. IQ, it's all love and banter. We're serious, but you'll see me and Zab, when we're serious, but when we're in the gym, it's fun. We want it to be fun, and it feels like home.
Yeah, because I think that's it with your fighters, what they see. I mean, you from a kid, what you saw is what you become. In the school, you have that relationship with your students, so you're helping them to aspire to do something, and then the mentality now of that is carried on into the gym as well. So we're going to talk about the vision of IQ Boxing. You spoke about it, you touched on it briefly. Tell me about how that vision became a reality, because there's going to be people that's listening to this that they might have a dream, that they want to become a reality. You don't know who you're inspiring. You never know that. So
Yeah,
tell us a bit about that dream and how you two turned it into a reality.
I think most importantly, and this is just to anyone listening or whatever, is whatever your dream is, just go for it. Like literally, there's no time like the present. If you feel like this is what you want to do right now, do it. They're like, oh, that old saying, there's nothing like a bad idea. There literally is nothing
True.
like a bad idea.
True.
And in terms of IQ, like I said, myself and Zav were at another boxing club, and we always had aspirations of starting our own boxing club in
Yeah.
IQ. We actually had the business planning for IQ and stuff there for years, for before. It was more a sense of we just needed to find that right time to do it. And we were talking and whatnot, and at this point I wasn't really involved in boxing as much. Got a little disgruntled like I normally do sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I don't
Life.
want to do this no more.
Life.
I don't want to
Happens.
do this no more. I'm quite a what's it? I'm quite a determined person. So after a particular point, if I feel stagnant, I'm sort of like, yeah, I'm not doing this. But yeah, so I wasn't in boxing, and Zav was like, come down. I'm going to somewhere else. Going somewhere else. That's what we sort of said. I said, Zav, why are we going somewhere else? Like, why can't we just do what we want to do? It's like, yeah, it's true. And we had that conversation and we were talking about, and Zav had called a few people just to look at, if there was any halls or anything we could sort of start up in. And we stumbled across the building where we are now. We went to go look at it and just thought, yeah, this is home. And the vision had been there from day dot. I guess individually, we both had our own aspirations to do something where we wanted to help the youth.
Yes.
But I guess collaboratively we realized, what, the boxing club is what we wanted to do. And when we initially started, we didn't even want to have an amateur club. We just wanted a professional boxing club. We just wanted to work with professionals.
Yeah.
But we quickly realized that, in order to have a stable of fighters and whatnot, we would need to invest in the amateur game and develop fighters and then get them to professional level, because the professional level was quite saturated. You got your top trainers and it's really hard to break in unless you know someone. So we went down that route, and we was, like I said, we came over with a few fighters, and people were really impressed on the circuit by the way in which our fighters fought and the way in which we conducted ourselves and the style that we had, that it drew a lot of attention to our club. Mind you, we're a small club in history compared to some of the big names out there in amateur boxing. We're a small fish, but people speaking about us, left, right, and center. Going to tournaments, people coming up and saying, "I like the way your guy boxes," and so on and so forth. And because we had that vision of wanting to have a professional club, we taught our fighters to have a professional sort of style, a style that they could take forward rather than an amateur style, and you'd have to rebuild. And I guess that's what was the eye-catching thing. And all of the fighters had a different style, but a uniform identity under the IQ umbrella. And that was the vision. Sav and myself both inspired by the Kronk gym. Wanted to have a stable like that. Emmanuel Stewart. We wanted to have fighters coming out who had been with us for a long period of time. And it was literally that sense of that one day where it was like, why are we looking to go do this for somebody else? Why can't we just do this for ourselves? And birth IQ, and we haven't looked back since. And in that time, we have got professional fighters with us who were amateurs with us. Some of them started their career. Some of them started their career with us. One name in particular, Adrian Redmond. He was an amateur with us. No fights when he had joined us. Hardly any boxing experience, and we took him through the whole amateur game, and he's now turned over to professional with us, and he's 5-0. People like Dennis Wahome, who were amateurs, boxers, box different clubs here and there, but really found a home with us at IQ as one of our first fighters as well. Those two in particular, and Yusuf Kamari as well, who came to us, after boxing at youth level for another club, came to us as a senior, and has gone on leaps and bounds since then as well, and has now been signed by Dillian White as well. So, you know, that is, you know, that was our vision. We wanted to make guys from scratch and have them turn over with us as professionals. And, you know, we've still got an amateur club now. You know, I'm still heavily involved in amateur games still.
Yep.
And, you know, our vision is to continue to grow the club, you know, with amateur fighters, develop further coaches through the club, so that we've got a real conveyor belt of talent, you know, not just boxers, but coaches. And, you know I said, you know, we've got all of these guys who've turned over pro and whatever, but
Yeah.
our biggest thing, like I said at first, was having something in the community where people could come to and just use and call home. And
So
that's the most, I guess, inspiring thing about what we do is, you know, we get people who come to the club, all ages, all shapes and sizes, experienced, not experienced, and they're all there and together, you know, having fun, having a laugh, you know. And, you know, that's why we do what we do, and we hope to know that we can continue doing that for many more years to come.
there's a magic in boxing. When you find a good club, when you find a good set of trainers, it's like home. That's the only way I
Yeah,
can describe it.
it's a home away from home.
Yeah, because there's the blood, the sweat, the tears. You know, sometimes you might even fall out for a little bit, but there's still like a brotherhood or a sisterhood. There's that kind of feel about it, and it's nice to know that you guys carry that sort of family mentality, you know, into the gym for the fighters, because they'll feel safe. I mean, how many kids have come into your gym that it could have gone severely left for?
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. You know, we had a fighter, you know, and he's a pro now, and hopefully he'll make his pro debut soon. Shaquille,
Mhm.
you know, Johnson,
Okay,
fantastic boxer. You know, style like Tommy Hearns and everything.
really?
Fantastic. Oh yeah, he's beautiful. He's a
How
beautiful
tall is he?
boxer. It's about 6'2", 6'3", possibly.
And he's
He's
and
tall.
he's gangly. He's got that
He's
long
long,
reach.
yeah,
Yeah.
range, yeah. Oh, beautiful boxer. But you know, he was one of the guys that, you know, Xavier originally met and myself met at a previous club he was at,
Yeah.
and you know, he got himself in a little bit of bother and stuff, but through boxing has managed to completely turn his life around. You know, he's a happily married man now, a father, a professional boxer, and you know, without the boxing club, that may not have necessarily been, you know, his destiny. And that's for many of the fighters that we've had in the gym, people,
Yeah.
you know, who've maybe, you know, served time, you know, inside and stuff. They've come to the
Yeah.
gym, and you know, they've been able to go leaps and bounds. And I think the most important thing about the gym or any place is there should be no judgment, because everybody's story is different.
100%.
And you know, I guess the good thing about boxing, like you said, is it's got that special feel to it. It's somewhere you can walk in and there is no judgment. You can just hit a bag, whatever, man or woman, it
Exhale.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just,
And
yeah.
you know, we've been fortunate that we've been able to do that for many years.
Yeah. How are your styles, your style and Xavier's style? Are they similar? Describe the styles for me. I'm
Um,
massively into
yeah,
styles, and we can talk about this because
yeah,
I've got a little bit of a bee in my bonnet about the aggression that I see from
yeah,
the British fighters compared to the fighters
yeah,
that we see over the waters.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Nicholas's boxing style, what
Um,
he teaches his students in the game.
I am, if it is a patient, I have a very patient style.
Mhm.
I like I like a thinking boxer. I like a boxer who's able to think, assess what's in front of them, and make adjustments where necessary, and then go forward.
IQ.
Yeah, there you go. um,
I should have
but
guessed really, shouldn't I?
I think me and Zev are similar and different at the same time.
Okay.
Because we both, you know, are hot on defense, you know, being
Okay.
defensively sound. Um, and we both got different elements, you know, that we both like to coach and implement. I am, like I mentioned, Tommy Hearns is
Yes.
my favorite fighter of all time.
Yeah.
And, I really like how he used to box in terms
Yeah.
of behind the long lead hand,
Yeah.
box you on the back foot or the front foot, and then let that dynamite right hand go.
So relaxed.
Defensively sometimes he was all over the place when he got hit, but we can't all have it all.
Yeah, you can't have
But,
that many fights and not come out with a
yeah,
mark. Yeah.
exactly. But I'm very much of that ilk and that mold of, I like my boxers to be patient, box behind the lead hand, pick that opening and be sensible with the work in which they commit to. You alluded to, the aggression to which, British fighters tend to show. Um, I'm I'm very different. I'm very counter back foot. I like to draw people
Okay.
onto what we want to do and
Okay.
force the openings. So it's all about thinking and knowing what you're going to do next. I always say to the boxers,
Yeah.
boxing is like snooker. In the snooker, when the player goes to take the shot, they always think of the next shot they're going for, not the shot that they're having right now. And I always try to say to the guys is, think about the same. If you're throwing your jab to the body, what is the next shot you want to come afterwards with that, or where you're going to finish afterwards. So it's about being, very on the ball and thinking when you're in there and making the adjustments when you're doing that. And Xavier is the same. He's really really similar, but he's also got a very mean streak to him as well. In him, he likes to if you're there to be hurt, go and hurt them. Which I'm similar, but I can be. I'm more of the patient. I like 12 rounds of a masterclass.
Okay. Oh, you
I
are the
like
boxer.
I like the boxer, and I think Xavier's the same, but he also likes a bit of ruthlessness in there. I am happy to watch somebody box somebody off
Outbox
for
someone.
12 rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I think of recent times, Lyndon Arthur against Anthony Yard, for me, I
Kick
love
off.
watching that because just Lyndon, that's all it was. He just used his feet, adjusted when it got a little bit difficult, and then go back to what you're doing. So I do like thinking fighters and people who are able to execute a game plan. I'm
Yeah.
very tactical, like a chess player, they would say, I'm
Yeah.
always thinking about the next move.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, and I can agree with that. There's different types of fighters. You do get the boxers, the ones that want to go to the 12 rounds. You get the brawlers, and then you get a bit of both.
Yeah, you get the both.
I like a bit of both because I do like to see the brutality in the sport. I'm sorry, but I do. But I can also appreciate a really good boxing match. A lot of fans don't see those little, I don't know, say for example the pivot. I'm a fan of the pivoting out the way. I'm a fan of make and miss, make and pay, the pivot and the counter. I like to see stuff like that. I like to see somebody get their head jabbed off as well. You mentioned the fight with Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yard. It was a boxing match. I knew from when the bell went and how cagey they both were with each other. I knew that it wasn't going to be a brawl. It was going to be who can outbox who here. Goals and achievements then so far with your fighters?
So goals and achievements. So, we have, we've had amateurs who've won, numerous things and tournaments. Yusuf Kamari won a Southern Area belt, in his weight class when he was an amateur, and he's recently boxed for the English title as a pro. Came out with a draw. We've got Kay Prosper, who is the English champion at super lightweight.
I was supposed to watch that fight first.
Yeah, so but that was when he was defending it. He won it he boxed Bilal Raymond, and then he beat Samuel Mason for the title. Ryman, I think it's Ryman.
Yeah,
and he beat Samuel Mason for the title. So he's our title holder at that professional. We've got guys who have won eliminators for various for various titles like Southern and English level
Yeah.
titles, currently at pros. And then the
Yeah.
amateurs, you know, we've got guys who've won the Haringey Box Cup, who have gone on. We've got one boxer who was novice champion at 52 kg, under 10 bouts. We've got guys who've won silver medals in various competitions. We have a female who recently won the Women's Box Cup last year. So, you know, and that's just thinking off the top of my head. You know, we've won various one-day tournaments and stuff like that. And, you know, it's nice when that happens because it's testament to all the fighters for the good work that they've put in, and it's nice that they got something to show for it. But for me, I guess, and this is just for me, my biggest achievement, I guess, is when all of them whenever they have their first fight, when they've come into the club raw and they have that first fight, win, lose or draw, I don't care. It's having that first fight. It's having that bravery, that confidence, that tenacity to go in there and do something different. And, you know, I always say to them, win or lose, hold your head up high and appreciate your trophy because that's your first ever trophy. And for me, that's one of the biggest achievements we've had as a club, is that we've been able to allow young people and adults to do that. You know, recently we had someone who was 39, 40 odd who wanted to box, and we managed to get them a fight just before their 40th birthday because they can't box after 40. And the fact that we was able to do that, for me, was a massive achievement, because it's the same as getting an 11-year-old in the gym and getting them their first fight. It's the same feeling and euphoria for somebody who's 40. So, you know, for me, it's whenever we get someone out that has that first bout as an amateur, you know, first ever fight, I really enjoy that. And then obviously when they make their pro debut, it's another proud moment for me. And for me, they don't trump, you know, the titles and the big fights, but they hold a special place in my heart. For that, because nobody's ever going to forget their first time they do anything.
It's, like I said, it's going back to that youth of when you had the coaching, the advice into the senior school, the 11 to 16. It's like you're almost like a guide. It's like you guide people, you push people through their career. That's quite interesting, because it's definitely a different, I don't know, a different take on boxing. Something that's taught me a thing or two today.
I think, I think most definitely. I think you got a lot of people like that in the sport. I think, you know, sometimes it gets a bit clouded with the ego and in terms of, you know, I want to achieve and I want to win. But ultimately, everybody started as a coach who just wanted to give back and whatnot. And, you know, I guess for myself, the biggest thing is never ever to lose that. I always want to keep that sense of giving back. So, you know, even if, you know, we get to the top of the game and, you know, we've got world champions across the place, when we get to the top, and we got world champions, I reckon I'll still be turning up to our amateur sessions and still be standing there watching and you know, saying bits and bobs here and there. And you know, so a lot of the time now, because at the time I get to the club, sometimes the amateur sessions have started or whatnot. It's nice that I get to take a stand back and just look at coaches and what they're doing and look at the other young people and the other boxers in there. And it's just nice to stand back and look and just see how far somebody's come from. And it is that guiding and trying to get the best for someone.
Yeah, it's like the first steps, isn't it? The learning to read, the writing of the first sentence. It's nice to be a part of that from scratch. So you mentioned about the amateurs, and that's something that I want to touch on, because we're in lockdown 17 at the moment. And the effects, you know, the amateur boxers, and I'm not going to lean on Xavier's interview because I want your take on it. As you as an amateur coach, we're in lockdown. They're not classed as elite.
No.
So they can't train.
No.
Tell me about how you as a coach, because we've been through lockdown before, obviously, how you deal with getting them back in the gym, keeping them motivated to, I don't know, road runs. I don't know, have you done your 100 sit-ups today? Whatever. How do you cope with that being an amateur coach? Because I know a lot of them are going to be really feeling it right now because they can't train. That home we were just talking about and painting this beautiful picture of this safe place.
Yeah, and they can't be there. I'll be honest with you, I found it really difficult,
Yeah.
because there is nothing I can do in my power to make it any better for them.
Mm.
You know, in the first lockdown, I should say, you know, we were sending videos and whatever just to try and keep them motivated by boxing. And then, you know, it quickly dawned on us that actually that might be a little bit more depressing to see things that you can't do.
Catch
So
22.
yeah, so you know, I'd call around and text them to just to make sure that they're okay and stuff, and sort of say, you know, keep safe, keep doing what you need to do. And then we was fortunate enough for a little while that we was able to train outside. So we used to have
Yeah.
group sessions going on outside, and then we was allowed to train indoors. You know, limited space and limited capacity, and we've done that over time as well. And you know, I must say we've got some, you know, incredible coaches in our club who've been selfless during this time and you know,
Mm-hmm.
tried their utmost to try and engage them and keep doing stuff with them.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, I guess this time it's a lot harder because it's colder, it's wetter, it's darker, and you don't want to be out on your run. You know, yesterday or this morning I sent the text saying, you know, as you know, we've got another lockdown, so we can't do much. And you know, I always say, look, I'm always a phone call away. You're always welcome to pop into the club for a biscuit and a cup of tea. We can have a conversation.
Mm.
And you know, sort of said to them all, I'm going to make the personal effort to give them all a call, you know, between now and the weekend or next week, so just to see
Mm-hmm.
how they're all doing and how they're all coping. And I guess the biggest thing is, you know, is giving them goals to work to. I guess what I found is, you know, improve your stamina, improve your fitness, drop your weight during this time, so that when you
Yeah.
do come back, you know, you're ready to go and we're ready to just hit the roads and go for wherever the fights are. And
Yeah.
you know, I think for some of them that works really well. Some of them, you know, being alone and not, you know, having their own thing works really, really well. It's hard to try and manage, you know, all the people that you have in the gym and their expectations. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's not even just hard on the amateur fighters, it's hard on the keep fitters and the people who come in and use it recreationally. But I do think the amateur fighters have suffered, the amateur game has suffered, you know, because,
Yeah.
you know,
Massive.
we can't do our bread and butter, which is, you know, box and know, gain experience and stuff. So it's hard. And you know, to any of the fighters out there who are listening, you know, who are amateur or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, keep doing your runs, keep doing your shadow boxing, keep doing whatever, because at the end of the day, it may not feel like it's paying off now, but in the long run, it will. And it's just, you know, keeping you in that rhythm and ticking over. And for those of you who are just enjoying the break away, enjoy the break, because that's also good for your mental health away from the gym. Some
Yeah.
people who've been in amateur boxing, you know, since they've been a child and, you know, they're a little bit older now, they might be enjoying the time away. But just
Yeah.
know that when it is back, you know, you're always welcome back in the gym. And, you know, it's there. Even if you don't want to come back as a fighter, you want to come back as a coach or a volunteer, you know,
Yeah.
it's there. But, you know, I think amateur boxing is suffering. And I
Mm.
do hope, you know, the powers that be, the authorities and stuff, you know, are able to help fund, you know, amateur boxing clubs and keep them open. You know, as I say that, you know, I know several amateur clubs which are financially, you know, thinking, well, what are we going to do if this continues to carrying
Wow.
on? And you know, it's no dissimilar for us. You know, we are looking at stuff and saying, well, if this keeps going on, you know,
Cut
what
back.
is going to be, yeah, what's going to be the outcome and whatnot. And I think, you know, we've been quite fortunate that because we've been quite forward thinking in what we're doing. Hopefully, there'll be some other things down the pipeline. You know, we've set up a charity, so hopefully that charity can help support the boxing club a little bit further, so that we can keep, you know, these amateurs still going and these young people still in the club.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it was nice to hear people like Anthony Joshua say that they've donated some money to trying to help grassroots boxing, and hopefully the bigger guys, you know, the Eddie Hearns, Frank Warrens, whatever, you know, I know they understand the importance of boxing, you know, amateur boxing to their business, and hopefully there is something that can come from that to try and support amateur boxing going forward. But you know, my heart goes out to every amateur boxer and coach
Yeah.
right now, because we're just stagnant. We don't know whether we're coming, we're going. But you know what? Hang in there, you know, and hopefully we come out the other side and we're able to live to tell and be able to create that magic which we all love.
Yeah. How many amateur coaches does IQ Boxing have?
I think like 10 or so, something like that.
Okay,
10,
so it's quite a
something
big
like that.
club then.
In size, no. In theory, yes, but in size, when you see us, know. But yeah, I think we've got 10 or so coaches in there who are, without them, the club isn't half of what it is. Me and Zav just have the vision. These guys help keep it alive. And there's some guys who've come in and they've gone leaps and bounds. We've got experienced coaches, people like Ken Thomas, who were amateur boxers themselves, boxed for prestigious clubs like All Stars, and won ABA titles and stuff. And then we've got another coach, Coach G, who's a hot up and coming coach. He's got a fantastic female boxer and a little talent pool of boxers himself there, which is coming up. We've got female coach in Melissa, who's learning her trade as well as boxing at the same time. We've got another coach, Drew, who's he's just fantastic, man. He's loving it. He's learning it all. We've got another coach, Chris, who's always there with the juniors. And we're quite fortunate that we've got some of our previous boxers who are still young themselves, 16, 17, who are coaches. One of our boxers, Oscar, another young lady called Kinga. All of these guys who contribute to what we do at the club. And if I missed anybody else, I apologize because I can't remember at the top of my head. But, these guys are fantastic for what we do. And, without them, the club wouldn't be where they are. Special mention to people like Mehmet as well, another coach, and he's also an amateur judge as well, and he takes time to help the boxers and tell them how the amateur judging works and scoring, what amateur judges look for, and help winning a bout and stuff. So it's nice that these guys are there and fully committed in the club, and we open our arms and doors to anyone and everyone who's committed to wants to get involved. We're like, yeah, come in, come muck in. And we've got some guys, myself and Zav, are really, really thankful for them for the time and effort that they put in each time the club's there.
So in relation to pro coaches, do they do pro as well, or have you got a different set of pro coaches?
We've got some who cross over, like myself, and a few others I've mentioned, like a Coach G and a Coach Drew. And then we've got some other guys who sit outside of that. We've got a Coach K, who he helps with our pros, and then we've got strength and conditioning coaches like Dave and other guys who work alongside us to help nurture and grow the club. So we've got different people who do different bits. Special shout out to Coach Renzo as well, who comes in and he does a lot of our pad work with our pros and amateurs just to keep them sharp and ready. So it's a real team effort, a real collective effort. Myself or Zav might be at the head of the team or leading the team, but like they say, every part of the cog is important to the overall machine. So without them, the machine doesn't keep going. So
how many pro fighters do you like to have in your stable? Because I'm hearing a lot of different mixed views. People are they don't want to spread themselves too thinly. Boxing is quite demanding.
Very demanding. I think there is a number that every coach can have, i.e. a particular number that coach feels that they're comfortable with. As a club holistically, we would like to have as many pros as we can under our umbrella as humanly possible. But if I was a coach and you had to press me for a number, I would say maybe 5 or 4 or 5 or 6 possibly, that that you can really invest your time in and support them. But like I said, it's a collective effort, so you need other people there to help do and help build and help train and whatnot. But I hear that question all the time in boxing, what's the right number? And I guess it's down to you as the trainer. Like I said, I mentioned Emmanuel Stewart earlier on, and he had a stable of fighters that he nurtured and grew and brought them to the pinnacle of the game. So I guess it's dependent on you, how you are. Some people like to have 1 fighter, some people like to have 10 fighters, some people like to have 3. It's down to you. I don't think there is any one right number, because some people may find managing 10 a lot easier for them than managing 2. So I think it's down to how you are as a coach and the team that you have. If you've got a really good team of people that work with you, you could you know, ultimately dedicate the time you need for all of those fighters at different points in the day and at different points
Okay. Okay.
during camp. So, you know, you've got to be mindful during being pros, they may not box all at the same time, or they may
Yeah.
do, you know.
Yeah.
So if they box at different times, then you're able to allocate your time accordingly. And, you know, got to remember when you're a coach, especially a pro coach, your bread and butter is your fighters and, you know, and their purses if you're getting your 10% or wherever it may be from it. So
Yeah.
yeah, some people have one, some people have 10. I think it's how in which you feel you can manage it. I wouldn't sit here
Yeah.
and say, oh, you must have this number, because somebody, like I said, could have 10,
Yeah.
but they could have 6 other coaches with them who are supporting them to do what they need to do.
Okay.
So, you know,
Okay.
it's down to you and your systems and your team and how you choose to
Yeah.
operate.
Yeah. So when you're training a pro fighter, they've got a match coming up, you've got a date in mind, and you start your camp. Tell us a little bit about the intensity and the training of that camp. You smile with joy. I talk about
uh,
intensity.
do you know what I am? Like I always said, like I said earlier, I'm very calculated and always thinking about what to do.
Yeah.
And I would have already planned out the camp in my head prior to what we were doing. So, you know, I really like it to be really full on and intensive towards like the middle end of the camp and sort of
Okay.
tailor it down. Because I like to use that first couple of weeks of camp just to feel our way in, and, you know, we
Feel
might
your
do,
way in. Tell me about that.
yeah. So it's like, you know, depends on, you know, when they were last in the gym, or if they had a really hard fight
Okay.
the last time, you know, we might have seen particular things. So I used the first bit of the training camp, you know, to look at things that I know we need to work on and work on that. And then the middle half of it is, you know, increasing the intensity, increasing sparring, you know, increasing the workload. So, you know, they're not peaking too early, but they're getting close to fight night and they're starting to peak. And then, you know, 2 weeks before or a week and a half before, start tailing it down so that their bodies are allowing to recover, so
Okay.
that come fight night, that they're ready. And I think it's important that when you do it, when you do that, you have your team with you, so that you're able to have that conversation with your strength and conditioning coach,
Yes.
and, you
Yep.
know, your pad man and your second in charge and whatever, and you all know what we're doing, and we all buy into it and we all contribute to it. Because, you know, your strength and conditioning coach might say, well, do you know what, they need to be stronger. So, you know, I might want to use the first few weeks of camp to build up their core strength and their physical strength, which means particular elements of boxing may not be appropriate at that time. So it's about waiting and you know, doing that and then picking up what their strength and whatever they've been doing in the
Yeah.
middle of camp. But
Yeah.
it's just being really calculated and using your team and you know, and doing that at the right time, and knowing that each fight is different. So some fighters may take 4 or 5 weeks into camp before they peak. Some
Right.
people peak really, really early and they're ready to
Okay.
go. All cylinders blazing. Some people come back overweight, some people come back on weight, some people come back underweight. So,
Right.
you know, it's dependent on your fighter, and it's just being like flexible and being able
Yeah.
to adjust to meet their needs. But, you know, every camp's different. No camp is the same.
Okay.
It'll have its highs, it has its lows. But
Yep.
I always think the camp should be fun. It should be fun, and it should be learning, and it should be enjoyable. When we're
Yeah.
down to business, we're down to business. And outside of that, you know, it should feel like a partnership. We're both investing in what we want to do. And
Yeah.
I'm really about the fighter telling me, do you know what, coach, I felt this, or you know, can we look at this and what that? Because I think working collaboratively and being able to both of us work to the vision is important, rather than just me being the voice. They should be a voice too and contribute to it as well.
Yeah. I like it. So let's talk about sparring then. Obviously, that's part of camp and
Yeah,
preparation. I'm not asking for trade secrets.
yeah.
I just want to know, what type of sparring do you encourage your fighters to take part in preparation for a professional bout?
Um, I like a mixture of technical sparring and full on
Yes.
sparring. I
Yes.
think they're both important. I think there should be sometimes the spars which are controlled and limited to specific things, like if we're working on them. So, you know, if we're talking about, we want to slip a lead hand or a right hand
Right. Okay.
and for a particular shot, then, you know, we'll have the sparring controlled so that, you know, the fighter in question may can only work on or throw a particular shot, so they can see the angle and be forced to do particular things. You know, if I want to improve someone's jab, I may just say, well, we just got jab sparring, um, for, you know, XYZ number of rounds and whatever. So I think there's an element of technical sparring which is important and
Yes.
should be incorporated. And then I think there should also be conditioned spars which build up to a full spar. So, you know, if we've got someone who's going to looking to do, he's going to have a 10-round fight, I'm not going to say we're doing 10 rounds from the get-go. We might start at 5, 6, build up. So as they get fitter and fitter, then we have those full-blown spars. And I think spars should be controlled. There shouldn't be wars. I don't believe you should be sparring full pelt and taking hundreds of thousands of shots on. I think it should be controlled. And if a fighter is taking too much damage, you stop it, you pull it back, you reassess, and then you go again. Or if they're causing too much damage, then you pull it back, reassess, and think, okay, I know you've got the power. I know you can hurt people. Let's take down the power. Let's work on speed and whatnot. So I think different fights will draw out different types of sparring and different types of conditioning. But I also think, you know, the biggest and important thing about sparring is finding someone or having people there that can replicate what you want to do and help make your fighter better. Full spars, I don't like too much sparring. You know, I have a set number of rounds I like people to do in correlation to the number of rounds that they're going to fight on fight night. I don't like to exceed that because, you know, there is a real correlation between over sparring and, you know, lack of performance on fight night, or too many hard spars can actually impact on the brain and impact on being able to get your license and later on in life cause you significant problems. So I'm really mindful about that, and I guess that comes from my background in sports science and stuff as well. So I'm always mindful about that, and I try and, you know, and, you know, I'm really about, you know, hydration and nutrition, and I think that's all important when it comes to a fighter preparing for their fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the late Patrick Day.
Yes.
He got knocked down. I think it might have been, was it 4 weeks before? Hold on.
I think he got
Was it 3
knocked
months
down, but
before?
something like that.
It was a short space of time.
Yeah, and then he was really dehydrated as well
Yes.
prior to the fight. So, and then it all culminated and unfortunately cost him his life.
Because that was the first fight. It's all right because you were talking about the sparring, you mentioned the nutrition and the hydration. I remember seeing him on, it was the American Presser, you know, and he was so happy.
Yeah.
He was so happy to have been given this opportunity to fight on a Matchroom or DAZN card. I can't remember which one it was. And the joy and the pride in his face. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to keep an eye out for this kid. He's got something about him. I like he's really got a really nice, positive
aura,
attitude.
Yeah.
Then I wake up the next morning.
Yeah, he's no longer with us.
And then,
you know,
oh, devastating. You don't play boxing. And I'm in a boxing gym myself, and my coach always says to me, technical sparring, you don't need to beat each other up in there because you don't get paid to spar.
No.
So just be mindful of going in there and causing that damage. So I get it. I get where you're coming from with that, because you don't play the sport. Did you watch the bouts on the weekend on the Garcia Campbell card? Did you see the two Nicaraguan?
Yeah, who just going at it.
I said when Felix fought Creel, the South African, I said, I think they need to stop this now. I think they need to stop this now. I just kept on saying it. I said he was taking too much punishment. And there was a point where he was in the ring and he just was, when he was in the corner, I do beg your pardon, and he just didn't seem to be listening. He was not there. He wasn't there. And I thought,
he's there, but he's not there. Yeah.
I think they should take him out now. Like, stop it. Eventually they did.
I think at any weight it's dangerous. You know, you've got different guys with different punching power, different punching resistance. You know, and we've seen, you know, people box and their eyes are swelling up and closing up and broken eye sockets and whatnot. And I think it's important as a coach, as a trainer, that you know your fighter implicitly. You know when, you know what, the gig is up here. You know, they've taken a bit of damage. You know, you know, I always say, you know, you live to fight another day. you know, I know some fighters like to go out on their shield, and you know, and people will always give them, you know, the opportunity to try and rectify this the situation. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, we've had great fights from it, but you know, there are some fights in time where, you know, there is no point. Like, you know, if I think about Nick Blackwell and Chris Eubank Jr., you know,
Oh yes. The
it
bleed
was,
on the
you know,
brain. Yeah.
he and that, you know, he was taking a pummeling for a long time. You know, he should have been pulled out of there.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, with boxing, there is somewhat sometimes a bit of bravado in terms of, you know, we've got to
Yeah.
fight to the end. And I think sometimes about us just being a little bit more, just saying, do you know what, enough's enough. You know, just call it a night, call it a day. Um,
Mm,
but I agree, any weight is dangerous because
okay.
any weight, you know, people have got power, and you know,
Yeah.
if they haven't done things correctly and they haven't hydrated properly, or they've lost excessive weight in a short period of time, it can
Yes.
all have an impact. And I know we're often talking about the heavier weights where people are, you know, talking about punching power or concussion, but you know, there are lighter guys, you know, who are hitting
Yep.
people and hurting them, you know.
Yep.
So I think it's important at either any weight, you know, any weight class, that, you know, we are mindful and looking out. And I know people think the smaller guys, the more speed, and it's, you know, less people knock people out at that weight, but accumulation of punches cause the same amount of damage as one punch.
Corner advice, and like you said about your fighters living to fight another day. Daniel Dubois, and this is it's just something that I've thought about a couple of times. You know, a young kid, um, you know, a heavyweight prospect. I thought his corner should have pulled him out. I mean,
Do
what
you
do
know
you
what?
think? What do you think about that? As you're there, you're fighter, your scenario doesn't matter. Forget the weight class. It's your fighter. You've seen the damage. Your fighter's coming back into the corner, because to me, he looked nervous.
Yeah,
He looks shaken. All right, then I won't say nervous, because he's a boxer. He's a fighter. He's not nervous. He looks shaken.
yeah. I
Tell me
think,
what you would have done as a coach. And I'm just putting you
think,
in that scenario. I know everyone's different, but if it's your fighter,
I think after, I think with that fight in particular, it was still a
yeah,
close fight. So, you know, you look as a trainer and, you know, you think he's still got a puncher's chance in terms of doing it. But once you could see the damage to the eye, sustained damage to the eye,
mm,
and considering Daniel's age and, you know, the
yeah,
person who's in there with, you know, you may just say, you know what, Daniel, come out and, you know, we'll go again. Um, and we'll come back and rebuild, because, you know, I think unfortunately boxing,
yeah,
there's this whole thing about, you know, protecting your O and not losing, but some of the greatest fighters have lost, you know.
yes, of course, of course,
And at that point, if I were Daniel's trainer, I potentially would have said, you know, after a couple of rounds when I saw the eye really, really closing, and, you know, he's not moving his head and he's taking shots full on, I
mm,
just said, you know what, Dan, unless you show me something in this round, you know,
okay,
I'm really gonna have to consider pulling you out because you're
yeah,
taking damage, and wait for the response. And if there wasn't any response, then I would have made the decision, because ultimately, as a coach, your biggest job is the welfare of the fighter. You know, you
yes,
want them to come back out.
yes,
Um, so, you know, and I think, you know, sometimes in the boxing community, people will say Daniel quit or whatever. You know, I'll be honest with you. At a time when he took the knee, I was like, why is he taking a knee? You know, is he wanting an out? But then when you hear the damage, then you're like, well, I understand why he took a knee, because his life and his eyesight is a lot more important
yeah,
than just that one fight. And even if he had won that fight and he couldn't
yeah,
box again, then it's pointless.
yeah.
So you know, it's all about, I think, fighters understanding their body and knowing, you know, actually I can't do this no more.
But, but then it goes back to you with your
Yeah,
relationship that you said, the
yeah,
relationship that you have with your fighter. You would have known that.
yeah,
I mean, why I yes he stopped. He says I can't do this
mm,
anymore, and that's okay. But
mm,
to save him, you know what the boxing
yeah,
fans are like. I'm a fan, but I'm not as brutal as some.
Yeah.
But people can be very, very nasty.
Yeah.
As a coach, I think if I was in that position, I would rather have taken it on my back and pulled him out rather than let him have to do it.
And
I
that's
don't
a
know.
coach's job. It's a coach's job to take that brunt.
Okay.
And you know, that's where you make the call. As difficult as the call may be, you make it.
Yeah.
And you know, and personally, you know, if I was ever in that situation, I had a fighter like that, you know, I'm sure 9 out of 10 times I would say, listen, enough's enough, we're done.
Yeah.
And pull them out.
Do you like to study your opponents?
I'll be honest with you, no.
Tell me about that.
I might watch a fight or two.
Yes.
But I'm a firm believer of, I know what they do and I know what their strengths and weaknesses are. But I think it's about training my fighter to their strengths and giving them all the weapons in their arsenal to beat that person.
Okay.
I always say in life, when you're good at something, you don't change you don't adjust or adapt to anybody else in any other walk of life. You wouldn't do that, you know. Usain Bolt was the best sprinter in the world. He didn't start changing his running style because somebody else came along who threatened him. He just stuck at what he did and just concentrated on what he was doing. And I'm very much of that mindset. I will, you know, potentially watch other fighters and see what their isms are, but ultimately I'm working on our strengths and saying, this is what you work really, really well. This is potential weakness of theirs. This is your best shot. How are you gonna expose them to land your best shot, or so on and so forth? So, you know, and I think because I like to watch boxing and study boxing as it is already. Fighter would most likely already have that style to combat what's going on. We would just look at particular things that we would need to nullify. So I may say to a fighter, do you know what? Their left lead hand is really good, or their left hook's really good. So always make sure you finish away from your work, away from there, rather than, well, you need to make sure you stay away from it. So, you know, it's different things, and I think it's different terminologies in terms of trying to get across what you want to do. And like I say, I like a game plan. So I would have tried to have orchestrated in my mind using all of my fighters' strengths to make sure that his strengths outweigh their strengths, and their strengths now become their weaknesses because he's using it or she's using it against them and whatnot. So it's good. But it's about, like I said, with each fighter, just working on what you know is going to help them to get them through to the end.
Yeah. Awesome. Nicholas, like I said, I could speak to you for 780 hours because I do enjoy the sport, talking about it, learning about it. And it's always nice to get different perspectives. I'm mindful of the time that you've been sat here speaking to me, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I hope we can do it again.
I'm always happy to come back.
Thank you. In relation to your fighters then, we can find you at Nicholas Prempeh on IQ Boxing on Instagram. Tell me about your pro fighters. Let us know who your pro fighters are, because no doubt I'll be sending them messages asking to speak to you.
Loads. There is Dennis Wahome on Instagram boxing. On Instagram, not Instagram boxing, on Instagram. We've got Adrian Redman, who's on there. We've got Plumedy, who's coming up. You've got Yusuf Kamari, got Yasser Al Gainer, got K Prosper, I've got Julio Chavez Campbell. And then, you know, I'll throw some amateurs out there as well. We've got a young lady who's turning over soon, who's coached by Coach G, who I mentioned earlier on, Shannon Ryan.
I've seen her.
We've got, you know, other
forward
amateurs.
To seeing what she's got for the division. Looking forward
to
it a lot.
She's explosive. Watch out for her. Really good.
She's kickboxing background as well, isn't she? So she's going to be springy on them feet.
And we've got amateurs, senior amateurs like Shane Williams, Ernest Wojciech, who are in the club. Matt, who's just come back from a big injury, so he's making his comeback into boxing. We've got juniors such as Oscar and Mir. All of them you can find under my Instagram handle or under the IQ boxing handle or Xavier's handle. They're all there. They're all accessible. You'll often see them on our stories or in our feed. And pros, amateurs. They're all as big as one another and contribute to the club. So yeah, please reach out to them. People, give them a follow because they're all going to have big careers.
Thank you very much for that. Anything that you'd like to say before we close off for the evening?
Well, firstly, I want to say thank you to you for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure. And I guess my one message to everyone, professional, amateur, I know we're in difficult times, but keep going, keep working, because there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you will fully enjoy and reap the benefits of being in boxing and enjoy it. And other than that, keep watching the greats and enjoying the sport. And thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Cheers for your time. We've definitely got to do it again. October Red on YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And don't forget, at October Red, we stay ready.
CLK, you're the genius.